It's my pleasure to have Greg Kelso from the Land of Lincoln Power Squadron with me today. Hey, Greg.
Hi, Susan. Always great to see you.
It's great to see you, and it's fun to be out here at Lake Springfield, and you know, this is your stomping ground out here.
It is. We would prefer much nicer days some days, but it is our stomping grounds.
It is, yes. Well, you know, talking about weather and nicer days, it's very important to look at the weather before you come out on the lake, correct?
Absolutely, Susan. When it comes to boating safety, one of the first rules is to always check the weather before you go out to make sure that the day is going to be conducive to what you plan to do. And today's kind of a marginal day for boating.
That's right. First off, let's talk about, are there any mandatory education that's necessary before you go out in the boat?
Yes, there's a relatively new law, came into effect 2 years ago, still kind of unknown, but anyone born after January 1st of 1998 is required to take boating education and get a certification in order to operate a watercraft.
And how extensive is that?
Typically it's about an 8-hour course, and it can be done in a classroom setting from certain organizations. The United States Power Squadrons will do that, as well as I'm a certified instructor with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, or you can go online to do it as well.
Oh, that sounds great. It's, you know, safety first is
absolutely
very important. So let's talk about, if you were to give 5 tips to boaters watching, what 5 tips are very important for them to use before they go out on their boats to have a safe day yet a fun day?
Good question. You know, on the average, we lose about 700 people a year nationwide in boating accidents, and most of the time those are just simple drownings. And they're in small boats less than 16 feet, and they just fall out. Quite a few of those are hunters and fishermen, so you might not think about those types of people actually having boating fatalities. So as a result, the number one thing to have is a life jacket. So we recommend, and it's actually required, that a life jacket be on board for every person, and it has to be the proper size and fit, has to be in good condition, and it has to be readily available. And we recommend that everybody just carry one and have it on you. We like some certain types, like inflatable life jackets as well.
Do you have one available?
I do.
Can we see that? All right, good. Okay, how does this one work, Greg?
Well, this is an inflatable life jacket, so you would unsnap it, and unfortunately this one's going to be a little bit loose on me, but you might put this one on, and you would wear it as a vest, so it would be worn like this. They're very comfortable, lightweight, much more comfortable than the older style life jackets.
Those and big orange ones, I remember as a kid.
Absolutely, yes.
Those are like...
Those are the kind you give to people that you don't want to come back on your boat.
Okay, good. We put a few of those away,
right? We keep a few of those just to be safe. But typically when it comes time to inflate the life jacket, you'll just pull on this yellow tab here at the bottom, and there's a CO2 cartridge inside that will automatically inflate this life jacket in just a few seconds.
Nice.
And they also have automatic ones that'll sense when you actually go into the water, so if you're unconscious, they'll inflate automatically.
Oh boy, they've really come a long way, haven't they?
They have. They make great gifts. So if you have fishermen, hunters, or other people in the family that are boaters, they make great gifts. These are, I think you can get these for around $50.
Wow, that's fabulous.
And the other tips I would suggest, I'm just going to toss this off to the side over here. The other tips I would suggest is, obviously we mentioned boating education, getting out there and learning more about what you're doing. Before you go out on the water, check your weather and make sure you know what the weather's going to be for the day. What
about drinking out on the lake?
You know, that's a good point. I'm glad you asked that. It is legal to drink and operate a vehicle or a watercraft. Of course, it's just as illegal to operate a boat under the influence, and you have the same limits, the 0.08, as you would on a blood alcohol content while operating a motor vehicle. But there's a phenomenon called environmental stressors, which basically by the time you spend a day out on the water in the sun and the wind getting bounced around and the extra noise, 1 drink on land equals 3 on the water.
Oh boy.
So most people know their limits on the land, but what they don't realize is their limits are about 1/3 of that once they get out on the water.
What about, you mentioned, let's talk about, you mentioned once again the importance of life vests. Let's say somebody doesn't have all the vests and they don't have the funds to go, I mean, $50 a vest. Is there any kind of loaner program or anything?
Actually, there is. On Lake Springfield, we started a loaner program, so not too far from here at the Lindsay Bridge Launch Ramp. We have a loaner program, so if someone runs a little short, they can stop in and borrow a couple of life jackets. And at the end of the day, they can just return them there at the guard shack right by the bridge.
Great, that's fabulous. One more question I have for you, Greg, about boaters with skiers. As a kid, I always went around here and skied all the time and loved it. Let's review the safety tips for skiers, how many people you need on the boat, the watcher, and so forth.
Very good questions. I'm glad you asked that. Every watercraft that's going to tow someone in the water has to have enough capacity to carry the operator of the watercraft and a competent observer who will observe the persons being towed in the water. And that watercraft has to have enough capacity to carry all of the people that are being towed. So typically you may have one person in the water, 2 people on the boat, so that watercraft has to carry at least 3 people. Most boats have that capacity, but if you go to look at a wave runner or a jet ski, it may not be able to carry 3. So that's one rule you want to observe. And then in that same bill that passed the mandatory education, it also requires a person in the water flag. It's typically about a 12-inch square orange flag that you display when you have someone in the water being towed.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds great. We want everybody to have fun on the lake, but we also want them to be safe.
Yes, we do. We all enjoy being on the water, but we want everyone to be safe.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Greg, for being on the Friendly Auto Show.
Thank you, Susan.
Let's go check out the lake. I see the boat out here. Come on,
Thanks.
Greg.
Mr. Lynch is not happy that the folks at Susan's Auto Mall are having such a great summer.
That's because right now, Friendly Chevrolet is having Christmas in July with no payments until 2018. Every vehicle is priced to sell, like this brand new Chevy Malibu for $15,990, or take advantage of no payments until 2018. Save big today at Friendly Chevrolet during Christmas in July, Prairie Crossing, Springfield.